Hi, welcome to part 3 of my beginner's guide to using your DSLR. In this video, we're going to improve how your photos look, so let's get cracking. I've got 20 years of experience taking photos and I want to share some tips with you today. So go ahead and click subscribe and make sure that you don't miss out on any of my future content. There are many different styles of photography and most people tend to just specialise in one or two, and each has its own set of skills and techniques to master. In this video I'm going to concentrate on general techniques that can be applied to all photography, but if you haven't checked out my other videos that cover all the technical aspects of photography, go and check those out now. I'll link them up here and down below in the comments. Most importantly, take pictures of a subject that you love. Take them for enjoyment, not for what other people are going to think. I did this for many years while entering competitions, and while my images did improve, it did start to take the fun out of photography. Don't forget, if there are any things that I discuss and you'd like some advice on them, leave me a question down in the comments and I'll get back to you. The first thing to think about is light. It may seem obvious, but you can't take photographs without light. This is going to be sunlight, or when you get more experience, possibly moonlight. Contrary to what a lot of people think, bright sunlight is not great for getting pleasing images. The light is just too harsh and your camera just can't record all the range of tones. If you can choose when you take the pictures, there are several options for when the light is more favourable. I took this shot when it was misty. The low sun and the mist has created a real good sense of depth. The hill in the foreground is darker, and as the hills go back, they get lighter and lighter, and we get a great sense of regression. In stormy conditions, you can get some really interesting clouds, and on this particular day, I was lucky enough to get a rainbow as well. These monkeys were taken under the shade of trees. Now it's really sunny at the time, but the tree canopy has prevented the light from being too harsh. When it is cloudy, the light is a lot softer and a lot more uniform. Now here, you can notice there's no shadow under the horse. That's because the clouds have softened out the light and made it much easier to work with. Probably the best time of day is the golden hour. Now this is an hour after sunrise and an hour before sunset. The light is a lot warmer, you get less harsh shadows, and it's just much easier to work with. Now I remember being on the beach on this particular morning and whooping with excitement when the sky lit up with colours like this. I'd be really interested to know if you've had any moments like this one that have made you whoop with excitement when you've been taking photographs. If you have, share them below in the comments. Next we're going to talk about artificial light. Now there's many kinds of artificial light and lots of ways to use them in a photograph. Too many to cover in this video, but I'm going to go over just a few. To dispel a myth, you don't need lots of expensive equipment. This picture here was taken just with a torchlight lighting up the background. Here's another way that you can be creative with your torch. I took this picture at night time in my garden. I set the camera to a long exposure and used the light to paint in areas of the garden to make them show up on the photograph. And you can get really inventive with your light painting. Here I've used a torch with a bare bulb and a long exposure, and then I've drawn around the object with the torch to create this effect. At night, buildings light up, street lights come on, cars have headlights, and these are all great sources of light. In this shot, in Shanghai, I waited till just the right moment till the buildings light up and there was just a little bit of light in the sky to get this shot. And of course there's always flash. Your camera might have a pop-up flash and you can use an external one that sits on the top of the camera, and when you get more experienced then you can start to think about studio flash like the ones that I used in this photograph here. I will do a video on flash in the future. Let me know if that's something that interests you down in the comments below. Once you've got the light sorted, then you need to think about the composition. And this is where photography starts to become artistic and therefore subjective. What pleases one person might not please somebody else. There are a few techniques that you can follow to help you with composition. These are sometimes referred to as rules, but remember, rules are there to be broken. I'm going to cover some of the main techniques, but just remember, this list is not exhaustive. There's lots more. Make your focal point clear. In this picture, the horse and rider demand the viewer's attention. There are no other distractions in the frame that take the viewer's eye away from the main subject. Where you place images in the frame is really important. This image feels wrong because the bird is right down in one corner. there's lots of dead space around the bird, which makes the whole thing feel really unbalanced. A very common composition technique is the rule of thirds. In this technique, the frame is split up into 9 boxes with 2 horizontal lines and 2 vertical lines making the frame. Try and get important objects such as horizons on these lines, and where the lines cross are called hotspots. Get your subject on one of these hotspots and it makes the image more powerful. Much more powerful than putting the image in the center. It just doesn't feel as pleasing. A similar rule is a golden spiral, which is often found in nature. I was subconsciously drawn to this image because it pleased me, but when I analysed it, all the elements followed the curve of the spiral and ended up falling on a lot of the hotspots within it. When faced with a symmetrical image, the right thing to do is to make the photograph symmetrical. This is when the rule of thirds goes out the window. Keeping an image simple is often the most pleasing way to go. Don't include anything in the image that doesn't add anything to it. I often use the analogy that if I was painting something, would I choose to actually paint something, or would I just choose to leave it out? Look for frames, either natural or man-made, that can highlight your subject. Look for lines that can lead your viewer's eye through the photograph. They can be vertical, horizontal, jagged, diagonal, roads, sunsets, paths, but they should all lead your viewer's eye to somewhere particularly important in the frame. If you're particularly observant, you may be able to find some leading lines in nature that can lead your viewer's eye to the main subject. Use of repetition or pattern can make for an interesting photograph. Examples are bark, flowers, man-made artifacts, or architecture. When you take a photograph, you're trying to show 3 dimensions in a 2-dimensional flat image. So try and give a sense of depth. You can do this by making sure that you include a foreground, a midground, and a background. Look for objects with interesting texture. The light will bring out details, making it easy to tell whether the subject is hard or soft. When taking a picture of a moving subject, try and give the subject room to move into. And because we in the West read from left to right, it is often more pleasing to make the subject move from left to right as well. I do hope you found this video useful, and if you have, go ahead and click like and subscribe. And don't forget to share this video with all your friends. It really helps my channel to grow. In my next video for beginners, I'm going to cover equipment that you'll need to get started and then what you can buy to add to your basic kit. Thanks again for watching, and for now, stay safe and I'll see you soon. I've got 20 years experience taking photos. Don't forget, if there's anything that I discuss in the comment, it's gone out of my head, don't know what I'm going to say. Keeping an that was rubbish.